At the White House, a new controversy has erupted, this time not about policy or law, but about imagery, symbolism, and legacy. A video released by President Donald Trump's communications team reveals a dramatic change in the newly created Presidential Walk of Fame, a gallery inside the West Colonnade that leads directly to the Oval Office. In the gallery, where portraits of past American presidents hang to tell the story of leadership across generations, one absence stands out. The official portrait of former President Joe Biden has been removed. In its place is something unusual, an image of a signature machine, the so-called auto pen, affixing Biden's name to an official document. For Donald Trump, this was no mistake and no accident. The choice was deliberate. The image sits between two portraits of Trump himself, one from his first term in office and one from his current presidency, marking not just continuity of his political journey, but also dominance over the man who preceded him. Trump has long alleged that Biden relied heavily on staffers and mechanical assistants during his presidency. He accused his predecessor of being too frail, too diminished in capacity to handle the daily demands of the job. By spotlighting the auto pen in such a public and permanent space, Trump is reinforcing a narrative he has been building for years, that Biden's presidency was not only weak, but fundamentally inauthentic. The move has sparked fierce debate. Supporters of Trump praise the decision as brutally honest, truth in plain sight, as one conservative commentator described it. They argue that the symbolism finally reveals what they believe to be a scandal hidden in plain view, that Biden's presidency was propped up by aides, machines, and staged appearances. Critics, however, are outraged. To them, replacing a portrait of a former president with a photograph of a machine is an insult not just to Joe Biden, but to the dignity of the presidency itself. They argue that the White House should be above personal vendettas and political stunts, and that traditions surrounding presidential portraits have always been treated with respect, even across party lines. The controversy is not just about art on the wall. It touches on the deeper question of how history is written and who gets to define a president's legacy. Portraits, after all, are not merely decorative. They are part of the National Archive, symbols of continuity that connect one administration to the next. Every American president, regardless of popularity or scandal, has traditionally been given a place in that gallery of leadership. Historians warn that what Trump has done here is unprecedented. No modern president has ever replaced or downgraded the portrait of a predecessor in such a deliberate, mocking way. Some fear this sets a dangerous precedent, where the White House becomes less a place of tradition and more a stage for partisan spectacle. Yet, for Trump, this is exactly the point. He thrives on spectacle. For him, politics has always been about image as much as it is about policy. From his campaign rallies with choreographed entrances to his use of social media to dominate news cycles, Trump has always understood the power of symbols. And now, inside the very halls of the White House, he is using those symbols to define his opponent's story. The choice of the auto pen is particularly striking. Auto pens have been used by presidents since Dwight Eisenhower. They are mechanical devices designed to quickly reproduce signatures on large stacks of documents, often for ceremonial letters or routine approvals. Their use has never been considered scandalous. It is a practical tool for modern administrations. But in Trump's narrative, the auto pen is recast as a scandal, a metaphor for Biden's alleged absence from his own presidency. By calling the use of the auto pen one of the biggest scandals in US history, Trump is inflating what was once a mundane bureaucratic detail into a dramatic symbol of weakness. His critics dismiss this as hyperbole, but his supporters seize on it as proof of their long-held suspicions that Biden was not fully in control. The timing of the unveiling also matters. This new Walk of Fame was launched with Hollywood-style flair, complete with dramatic lighting and careful staging. The gallery's layout was designed to mimic the aura of celebrity, underscoring Trump's showman instincts. By placing himself on both sides of Biden, literally bracketing his predecessor, Trump visually reduces Biden to a footnote in history. Reaction online has been swift. The video posted by Trump's communications advisor, Margot Martin, went viral within hours. Conservative influencers hailed the move as genius, calling it political art. Liberal commentators, on the other hand, called it childish and vindictive, accusing Trump of undermining the dignity of the office for personal gain. International observers, too, have taken note. Foreign media outlets describe the episode as another example of America's polarized politics spilling into its institutions. Some European commentators expressed alarm, saying that if presidential traditions can be rewritten so casually, it risks eroding the global perception of the US presidency as a stable institution. To place this in context, it's worth recalling how past presidents have used imagery to define themselves. Franklin Roosevelt used radio to project calm during crisis. John F. Kennedy's portraits became symbols of youth and optimism. Ronald Reagan mastered television, framing himself as the great communicator. Barack Obama's iconic Shepherd Fairy poster became an emblem of hope. And Donald Trump? He is now using portraits themselves, who is included, who is mocked, and who is erased, as a tool of political narrative. What makes this different is the direct attack on a predecessor. Traditionally, presidents may criticize those who came before them, but they preserve their portraits. Even Richard Nixon, who resigned in disgrace, still hangs in the presidential gallery. By replacing Biden with a machine, Trump is making a break with that tradition, and in doing so, he may be signaling that he views himself not as a guardian of history, but as its editor. This also raises questions about the future. What will happen when Trump eventually leaves office? Will his portrait be treated with respect by his successor, or will the precedent he has set come back to haunt him? If presidential portraits become political weapons, then the gallery of leadership risks turning into a gallery of partisan mockery. For the American public, the message is clear. In Trump's White House, politics is not just about laws, policies, or diplomacy. It is about performance. Every detail, from the portraits on the wall to the videos posted online, is part of a larger show designed to reinforce his narrative. Whether one sees this as bold truth-telling or petty humiliation depends largely on political perspective, but the effect is undeniable. Once again, Trump has seized the news cycle, not by passing a law or announcing a policy, but by staging a spectacle that demands attention. And so the image remains a mechanical arm pressing pen to paper where the face of Joe Biden once looked out from the wall. For Trump, it is the perfect metaphor. For Biden's supporters, it is a deliberate insult. For historians, it is a troubling precedent. And for the world, it is yet another reminder that in American politics today, the struggle is not only over power, it is over memory, image, and legacy. In replacing Joe Biden's portrait with a machine, Donald Trump has once again blurred the line between governance and theatre. It is a move that redefines not only how presidents are remembered, but how politics itself is performed in the modern age. And as this story unfolds, one truth becomes unavoidable. In the Trump era, history is not merely recorded, it is staged.